Well, my wife, Miriam, sitting up here in the front row, she has this shirt that she wears sometimes that kind of encapsulates her philosophy of mornings, as it were. It only has 4 words on it, but it really shows you like what her focus is every morning from that waking breath. The 4 words are this: okay, but first, coffee. All right? And it's true. From the very moment she wakes up until that first amazing sip, every action, every moment is oriented toward that first sip of coffee. I'll be like, babe, the kids need, but first, coffee, all right? And I get that. America runs on coffee because America is tired. This past week, I took my 15-year-old, 250,000-mile van in for some work at the shop. Miriam followed me in our 22-year-old car to pick me up from the shop. I dropped off the van, I walked over to the car, I reached for the decrepit, broken front door handle and looked down, and what did I see but a flat tire on my 22-year-old car? So now both of our very tired vehicles are in the shop getting their junk fixed and issues taken care of. We're tired, our cars are tired, our tires are even tired, and we're not alone, right? We've gotten so tired as a country now that we pay money for a watch to tell us how badly we slept, right? You wake up in the morning, not really feeling all that rested, and then your wrist buzzes. Sleep score 61. Poor recovery. Thanks, bro. I was there, right? 3 out of 5 American adults say that they feel more tired now than they have ever been. 1 out of every 3 people says they're still tired after a good night's sleep. Can I get an amen? Many of us are there, probably feeling it this morning. We're exhausted. Well, Mark chapter 6 begins with some people who really need some rest, and they need it badly. They're tired because they've been serving hard for a few weeks. And I think this is important because not all exhaustion is created equal. I've been wrestling with this text all week, and I found myself asking a different question of myself than I anticipated asking of myself. Not, am I tired? Nah, everybody is tired. The better question is this: are you tired for the right reasons? Are you tired for the right reasons? So let's walk through this together. And I want to start with a story this morning that I read about a tattoo this past week. Our 2 younger kids are off at camp this week, and so we've just got the 2 older ones with us. And what better way to invest in the precious souls of my children than exposing them to the elite form of entertainment in the last 25 years? Obviously, you all know that I'm talking about the show Lost right now, right? I figured we're on the same page about that. Miriam calls it making your kids watch your shows, and I just call it like cultural formation or something like that. Now, most of you have never watched a TV show with me, but what you need to know is that whenever we watch a TV show or a movie, I always have Wikipedia opened up on my phone. I don't know why I'm wired this way, I just am. I like to do research on the show. I like to do research on how well it's been received by the American public. I like to see the relationships between the actors and who they're married to, and all these kinds of things. I know it's strange. And so, a few episodes in, I noticed that the character Charlie has this tattoo on his arm right up here. And so now I have to know, like, is the tattoo real? Or is he just getting it painted on his arm in the makeup chair every time he sits down before he goes to a new shoot or whatever? It turns out the tattoo is real. And Dominic Monaghan, he's the actor who plays Charlie. He played the character Merry in The Lord of the Rings. And the tattoo he has actually comes out of those movies that he filmed. So here's the story. The 9 guys who played in the Fellowship of the Ring, the guys who are tasked with protecting Frodo on the way to Mount Doom to get rid of the ring or to destroy it. Those actors spent a long time together in the Fellowship of the Ring. They filmed it in New Zealand. So there's mud, there's rain, there's hot days, there's cold days, there's prosthetic feet. There are long days and this like shared hardship that they experienced together. And so when filming of the 3 movies wrapped, the 9 members of the fellowship all got together and they got matching tattoos. Like in real life, they got matching tattoos. Here's a picture of a few of them, not all of the Fellowship of the Ring, but a few of them. You might recognize some younger faces in that picture there. And the tattoo is the elvish symbol for the number 9, like the language that the author wrote all these books in. He had his own language that he created, and they used that language, the number 9, in that language. You can see that a couple of the hobbits actually got it on their foot, which is totally appropriate if you've ever seen those movies, those big prosthetic feet that they have to wear. Something about that mission, though, even though it wasn't technically a real mission, something about that shared experience with them marked them so deeply that they wanted to be marked by it forever with a tattoo. Shared mission does something to people that shared comfort never will. You can sit beside someone in church for decades and barely know them, but sweat for Jesus beside them, take risks for Jesus beside them, watch Jesus at work beside them, and now you're family. Now you have this shared history, and it leaves a mark. Sometimes it's ink, sometimes it's memories, sometimes it's this deeper shared dependence on Jesus, but nobody comes home from a meaningful mission together unchanged. That's exactly where Mark is picking up the story here in Mark 6. The apostles returned to Jesus after this shared mission trip together that he sent them on a few weeks ago. We covered that together 2 weeks ago. Then Cameron preached on the beheading of John the Baptist last week. So they're coming back now from this trip that Jesus sent them out on. They return to Jesus, and they tell him all that they had done and taught. So I want to see if you can crawl up into that circle of friends right there, that fellowship that Jesus had sent out. And imagine this reunion. A few weeks have gone by since Jesus sent them out to find their own kava girls. If you know, you know. If you were here with us a few weeks ago, you'll know what we mean by that. But sent them out on mission to find people who need Jesus. So these stories are flying back and forth between these guys. The room is buzzing. No way! Me too. That happened to you as well. I can't believe it. Dude, Jesus, you are awesome. I cannot believe your power has gone through us to do these amazing things. The circle and the stories must have been crazy. Church, we need stories. We need stories to keep going. We need to tell stories to one another. But in order to have stories to tell, we need to make stories together, on mission together. Churches that stop making stories slowly drift from mission into maintenance. Let me hear that again. Churches that stop making gospel stories together drift from mission into just maintenance. So let me ask you something this morning. What stories do you have to tell? If you're sitting in that circle with the disciples, would you have any stories to contribute to the buzz in that room? Do you have any Jesus stories in this last week? The last month, the last year? Where have you opened your mouth to give someone on the path of your life an encounter with Jesus that they cannot ignore? When's the last time you took a gospel risk? You know, most of us don't lack stories because God isn't working. We lack stories because we're rarely joining him where he is already working. Listen, I know a lot of us in here are exhausted. Probably put myself in that category too. But most of us don't have any kingdom stories to explain why we're exhausted. We're tired. But from what? What are we tired from? Keeping up with the Joneses? Chasing promotions? Working jobs we don't enjoy to impress people we don't even like, right? We have to wonder if we as Christians are affecting the culture at all, or if we're simply being infected by the hustle culture in America. So maybe the issue isn't that we don't know how to stop working. Maybe we've forgotten what rest in Jesus really is. I want to be careful here because some of you are tired for a reason you didn't choose. Deployment, a diagnosis, a newborn, an aging parent, some kind of grief in your life right now. Jesus sees that kind of tired too. And his word to you this morning is not do more. It is come away and rest with me, recharge with me, enjoy me. But others of us in here right now that are not faced with that in the immediate moment, our exhaustion is not automatically holy. Listen, in this very entrepreneurial city of Virginia Beach, let me tread on some dangerous ground for us, okay? Hustle in life is not the same thing as faithfulness to Jesus. Your hustle does not equal being faithful. Don't confuse those two things. Some of us are worn out chasing things that aren't going to matter in 10 years, much less 10,000 years right now. We're so worn out, but worn out from what? So let me ask a different question. When is the last time you were tired because of ministry, like these disciples were? Tired because you gave up a Saturday to serve someone. Stayed up late praying with a friend past your bedtime. Opened up your home, actually spoke good news to your neighbor, shared the gospel with them. And I want you to know that as a church, we are and are going to be building more and more outlets for this. Missions trips overseas, serving opportunities right here in the 757. Stay tuned for those things. They are coming. In fact, one opportunity actually starts for us next week when we have one of our missionaries gathering right here with us next Sunday, a missionary from Africa. John and Caroline Finley will be here with us on Sunday. They live and they minister in a deeply Islamic culture. They are very much the minority, like less than a 1% to the 99%. And they're going to tell us what that actually looks like, what it feels and sounds like. They're going to tell us what encouragement they need, what daily life on the front lines really actually costs them in that part of Africa. And sometime soonish, I hope a group of us can take a trip to visit them, to be an encouragement to them, to be there to help them in the mission. So you don't want to miss next week when we get the first taste of John and Caroline Finley as the Anchor family. We have yet to meet them in person. We've met them over Zoom, but I can't wait for you guys to meet them next week in person. I'm going to get like the stank eye from Mel when I say this because I just thought of this morning. So please forgive me. Mel's on staff as our administrator. But next week, we're going to host a little meal, okay, to chop it up with the Finleys, to get to know them. And so there will be limited spots available for that. We're going to try to meet up in the wood room if we can. If not, we'll find another place to do it. But if you want to be in a group that mixes it up with them, tries to encourage them and hear stories from them, we'll send out some information about that early on this week. But I would love for you to get the chance to know them and understand what mission is like in a different part of the world and a very different lifestyle that we live. I'd love to pack that little space out if we can to encourage them. Anyway, more on that to come, I think. There's a certain buzz that comes when we labor together for the right reasons on a holy mission. There is a certain buzz that comes from that, and I want us to experience that. I want us to have stories to tell about what God is up to, not just here, but all around the world. Well, they come back buzzing with these stories. And at this point, you might expect Jesus to say, yes, let's capitalize on this momentum. Let's take this message it's really making a big impact in the city that we're in, and let's take that to the next city and just see what happens. But instead, we see verse 31. Come away by yourselves to a desolate place and rest a while. And then Mark adds this really earthy detail. I think he says, Jesus says this because many were coming and going, and the disciples had no leisure, even to eat. They didn't have time to eat. So Jesus notices what everyone else is oblivious to and misses. They haven't even gotten a chance to eat. He knows adrenaline is not the same thing as the Holy Spirit. You want to know what one of the most important sentences in my house is? Here it is. Have you tried unplugging it? Right? Have you tried unplugging it? I'm serious. That's like the entire IT department in my house, right? Is the Wi-Fi acting up? Unplug the router. TV frozen? Unplug it. The printer doing whatever it is that printers do when they don't print? Unplug that thing. Count to 10 and then plug it back in. And it works. Why does it work? Nobody knows, but it works most of the time. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a little bit. Church, including you, unplug for a little bit. This is not just a life hack. This is practically Mark 6:31. Jesus looks at his 12 tired disciples and he unplugs them. Let's go away to this desolate place and let's rest for a little while. Yes, Jesus wants us to run hard. It's the first little section is about here in our text, but he also wants us to rest deeply. because that's the rhythm of discipleship. Mission, then rest, then mission, then rest. The sidelines aren't the destination. That's where you catch your breath so you can go back in the game. If you're looking at your life right now and seeing that basically your whole Christian life is the sideline, you don't need rest. You need a jersey. Get out on the field and do the work on the team. This is the first discovery that Mark wants us to make. Run hard and rest deeply with Jesus. Run hard and rest deeply. So I want to know this morning, are you doing either of these things? Are you running hard or are you resting deeply? My bet is that there are some in both categories this morning. Some of you need to hear, I need to rest, and it's okay if I rest. Some of you need to hear, it's time to run a little harder than I have been. I'm betting more of us fall in that category of needing to run harder at what actually matters in life right now. Well, the guys take Jesus up on his offer here for this short vacation. So they get in this boat to go away across the way and find a desolate place to rest. The retreat is booked. The calendar is clear, and they push off from shore, ready to just go rest and hang with Jesus. And they lean back for the first time in a few weeks, glad to take a load off, but not for long. Check out verse 33. The crowd sees them leave, and they figure out where they're headed, and they run on ahead of them. By the time the boat reaches the other shore, the crowd has beat them there. They're there waiting for Jesus and his disciples over there. Imagine if every Sunday, the second we finished here, you made a beeline out those doors, got into your car, and raced down to my house, and you were just sitting there in my front yard when I got home. And you said, hey, pastor, that was a great word today. What else you got, bro? Imagine if that was our experience and encounter together every week. Listen, I love you guys, but I would not like that at all. I would not handle that well. But can you kind of feel this moment? What would it have felt like to finally land on that shore and see the whole same crowd you saw on the other shore? You finally pull into the beach house, this vacation that you've been counting down to and planning for weeks, and then your job standing right there in the driveway. You would not be happy about that. But look at Jesus, verse 34. Jesus steps off the boat. He sees this massive crowd, the very crowd that had just canceled his vacation, and it says, he had compassion on them. Jesus didn't merely just notice the crowd, he didn't just see them. He felt them, he internalized them. One guy describes compassion like this: your pain in my heart. Your pain in my heart. I think that's an apt description. You ever felt that for the lost among us? Their pain in your heart? And why does Jesus feel this? Mark tells us in verse 34, because they were like sheep without a shepherd. What do we know about sheep? Sheep cannot survive on their own. Left alone, they die. And so what Jesus does next might surprise us in light of what we know about these sheep, that they die without a shepherd. What Jesus does next surprises me, at least. What does he actually do with this compassion that he's feeling, their pain in his heart? What does that trigger him to do? Isn't it interesting that Mark doesn't say he immediately starts healing everybody? Isn't it interesting that he doesn't immediately feed everybody? Look at verse 34. He began to teach them many things. Wah, wah. Like, right? Didn't you want Jesus to do something else? Not just like pull up for another Bible study, right? Why? Because Jesus knows what we tend to forget. Hungry stomachs matter. They really do. This life and our needs in this life really matter. What happens in this life matters, but hungry souls matter more. The crowd came looking for miracles, and what they got was a Jesus juke with truth. He taught them many things. Don't underestimate the value of this gathering every week. Don't underestimate the value of teaching every week. Jesus is showing here that teaching actually really matters to him. Glad you're here today to prioritize the teaching of God's word. And notice Jesus' compassion here. It's so exemplary and so beautiful. It does not keep office hours. Jesus doesn't keep office hours. Jesus went to that desolate place for refreshment for he and his boys, and he ended up teaching all day and then feeding thousands of strangers. He didn't wait until he had more margin to love people. He loved the people that God put in front of him on his path. Anchor Church, I've said this before. I'll say it lots more times. We are not a church just for ourselves. We must not be a church just for ourselves. We don't gather on Sundays only and just to enjoy Jesus together. We gather so that we can be mobilized to scatter. Because there are still sheep without a shepherd all over the 757. And we ought to be feeling that compassion that Jesus felt for the sheep without a shepherd, their pain in our hearts. Every neighborhood, every office, every military base, every gym, Jesus moves in with compassion toward them. And so must we. But I think some of us are waiting. We're waiting for just a little bit slower of a season till the kids are a little bit older, the home schedule a little bit more manageable, waiting until work calms down, waiting until life gets more manageable before we engage with the mission that Jesus has given to us. But I don't think this story lets us wait for that kind of thing. Jesus didn't wait until he had margin to love people. He didn't have any margin at this time. The creator of the universe needed rest in this moment. And yet he still showed compassion in this moment. Who is the one that the Holy Spirit is laying on your heart right now? Maybe a face that you're sensing, maybe a neighbor, maybe a coworker, maybe a family member, the guy at the gym. Who is your one that the Lord is laying on your heart right now? Don't forget this, Christians in here. Don't forget this. Because someone did ask this question about you. Who is my one? And your face showed up in their mind and on their heart. They asked, who is my one? And you came to mind. And what happened next? Someone crossed the room. They crossed over a threshold of the awkward to give you the news of eternal life. Someone opened their Bible. Someone interrupted their schedule. Someone pushed off their vacation and their rest. Someone loved you enough to not let you keep wandering. We're sitting in this room because Jesus sent somebody. You and I are sitting here because Jesus sent somebody. And now, because Jesus sent someone to you, you are also a sent one for him. So here's the sobering question that I really grappled with this week. Would Virginia Beach miss Anchor Church if we disappeared? Would it even make a blip on the radar? Would they even know? Or are we a church mostly for ourselves? We like our Sunday club and not much else. I think this is the second discovery that Mark wants us to make. The call is not just to run hard with Jesus or to rest with Jesus, but to look around and feel the compassion that Jesus feels. And it starts with actually looking. Most of us don't necessarily lack compassion that Jesus had. We lack attention to what Jesus paid attention to. You can't feel anything for people you never actually really see. And most of us are probably moving a little bit too fast for us to really see anybody. So Jesus steps off the boat and he sees the crowd before he feels the crowd. Run hard and rest deeply with Jesus, yes. And then look closely and feel deeply like Jesus. So Jesus teaches the crowd all day long. It's getting late. They are out in the middle of nowhere. And thousands of stomachs are growling. Must have been a noisy place. Mark's detail here tells us that there were 5,000 men. Matthew adds another important detail. Matthew is one of the other gospel writers. He has another important detail to this same story. He says 5,000 men besides women and children. So there are a lot of people here. Conservatively, we're probably talking about 15 or 20,000 people that are gathered around Jesus. That's way more than Harbor Park seats. That's way more than the Scope Arena seats. Picture like the Veterans United Home Loans Amphitheater with every seat full and the lawn area completely packed as well. That's 20,000 people. It's a lot of people. Finally, the disciples decide someone's got to say something because the growling in the stomach is becoming audible everywhere, right? Verse 35, this was a desolate place out in the middle of nowhere. And the hour's now late, they say. Send them Send them away to go into the surrounding countryside, send the crowd away to go to the countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat. Honestly, it sounds like a good plan to me. Let's outsource this. They can come back. We'll do some more teaching. Surely Jesus is going to dismiss the crowd now, right, to go get their stuff. Instead, he says what I think is the craziest thing in the whole story. Verse 37. He says, you give them something to eat. Come on, guys. Give them something to eat. Don't read past this little detail just because you've heard about it and seen it on flannel graphs. Graphs. There it is, flannel graphs. Do we know what flannel graphs are? Oh boy, I shouldn't have used that one. Okay, well, they were like Bible stories made of flannel that you would put up on a board during Sunday school. This is probably like the 70s and 80s. I'm showing my age, I guess. But anyway, I've seen this on flannel graph since I was a kid. So I think we tend to skip over some of these details because this is the story we all know. If you've been in the Christian faith for any period of time at all, you know this story. But what Jesus says here is shocking. You guys give them 20,000 people something to eat. Imagine hearing that for the very first time. I picture these 12 grown men looking at each other, being like, what are you talking about? Peter looks at Andrew. Philip looks at Bartholomew. Peter's thinking, did this guy hit his head on the way out of the boat? Like, what is going on? Is he dehydrated? Do we need to get the guy some water? Because here's the question. Every disciple, all of us, eventually has to answer. What do you do when Jesus asks you to do what you cannot do? What do you do when Jesus asks you to do something that you just don't have what it takes to do? He's going to ask you to do something like this. He always does. Eventually, he'll ask you to forgive someone that you just feel you can't forgive. You can't get there. To love someone who's just really hard to love. To speak when you'd rather stay quiet. To give when it does not make any financial sense. Eventually, every disciple hears, you feed them. Jesus, my tank is empty. I don't have anything to offer. And what do the disciples do? Exactly what we would do. They start doing the math. Verse 37. Shall we go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give it to them to eat? A little sarcasm there from the disciples. A denarius was about a day's wage, so we're talking like 8 months worth of salary. This is like a fairly sizable chunk of change here, right? They're doing the math, and here's the thing. Their math is right. They did the math right. It's just incomplete math. They didn't finish the equation. And why is that? Because Jesus wasn't actually in the equation for them yet. The disciples think the biggest number in the equation is the 20,000 hungry people that are sitting out there. And Jesus doesn't argue with their math. He simply asks a different question. Verse 38. How many loaves do you have? Go and see how much bread you can find. And John tells us another detail from this story that Andrew speaks up here and he said, well, there's a boy over here. He's got 5 barley loaves and 2 little fish. And then he adds, but what are they for so many people? Can you hear the embarrassment? Like, Jesus, what do you want us to do at this point, man? 5 loaves, 2 fish, 20,000 people. It's ridiculous. I still have some vivid memories as a child, seeing my mom standing at the kitchen sink, singing this old hymn, little is much when God is in it. Olivia, that was my tryout for the worship team right there, my audition. Let me know what you think. Please don't actually. But little is much when God is in it. She was right. My mom, like so many things she was right about. Little is much when God is in it. Maybe this is the final discovery that these disciples needed to make with Jesus. Not just rest with Jesus, not just to feel and see like Jesus, but to bring your little to Jesus, whatever little you have, because that's all they've got. And apparently it's all Jesus wanted. Verse 39. So Jesus has everyone sit down in groups of hundreds and 50s. What an interesting detail for Mark to add here. This must have been so curious to the disciples. Like, why do we have to group them in 50s and 100s? We don't see this kind of thing happening anywhere else in the Gospels. Why the seating chart? Well, I think it's for the aisles. He's organizing 20,000 people for easy distribution. before there's anything to distribute. Rose first and then bread later. Verse 41, Jesus takes the 5 loaves, the 2 fish. He looks to heaven. The creator of the universe looks to heaven, depends on his Father. He blesses them. He breaks them. And then I want us to notice something that I did not notice until this past week, which I think is so cool. Jesus never hands one piece of bread directly to the crowd. Not one piece of bread. Every single piece passes through the hands of the disciples. Isn't that interesting? Don't miss this. Jesus performs the miracle. The disciples participate in the miracle. He lets them distribute what only he could provide. Here's the principle, and please let this take the pressure off, okay? Jesus is the manufacturer. We're just the distributors. You don't have to produce anything or be compelling or persuasive. You don't have to manufacture grace, generate power, or come up with the goods. You just hand out what he, by the Spirit, provides. That's it. That's the whole job. When you think about it like that, the Christian life is simple. Mission does simplify. When you're like, I just got to give what he gave me. It's that. We get so in our heads about this. In the month of August, next month, during our next set of Mobilize classes, we're going to be helping you with identifying what those goods are to hand out to the people here in the 757, how to distribute them. And so stay tuned for that. Cameron's going to be talking a little bit about that tonight at our Partners Fellowship. But real quick, before we move on from this little section here, I want us all to nerd out for a time here, okay? Nerd out with me for 1 second. There's a detail in verse 41 that you can't really see in your English translation, no matter what English translation you have, I don't think. But if you're reading in the original Greek, it actually pops right off the page. Mark doesn't simply use a past tense verb here in verse 41. To us, it looks like Jesus gave them, the disciples, bread. But Mark, original Greek, the language that the New Testament was originally written in, Mark uses a different kind of verb that has this idea of ongoing action, not just something that happened, but something that is happening and continuing to happen. It's Jesus kept giving is the actual sense of that verb. So don't picture one big handoff from Jesus to the guys like here's your pile of bread and here's your pile of bread and then here's your pile of bread. It's not quite like that. Picture them loading up, running out to the aisles, distributing it, and then coming back to Jesus. And then going back out and handing out what he had just given them. And then going back for more. And then handing it out, walking down the aisles and giving them more. Here's the deal. He's offering us that same deal today. Jesus is. Your hands and energy tank will be empty from time to time. That's the job. But he is never empty, ever. Look at verse 42. They all ate and they were satisfied. So our job is to go spend ourselves for Jesus and then come back to Jesus and get more from him. And then go spend ourselves for Jesus and then come back to Jesus. And then what we'll see is verse 42, the people around us will eat and be satisfied in Jesus. And look at this cool detail from Mark in verse 43. And they took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces and of the fish. 12 baskets. What a curious number of baskets to be left over. One for every disciple. The men who said, Jesus, we don't got enough. What are we supposed to do? Each of them end up walking away with more than they started with. Almost as if Jesus were saying, when you bring your little to me, you will always discover that I am enough for you. Hear the challenge this morning and take Jesus up on it. Test him. See if he'll just take your little and multiply it. Run hard and rest deeply. Look closely and feel deeply. And then finally, take your little and risk it all for Jesus. And think about what Jesus is feeding them. Bread made of barley that no farmer ever planted. This blew my mind this week. These seeds were never planted. There wasn't enough seeds in those 5 loaves to plant, to give to all the people in that crowd. He's feeding the people with fish that no fisherman ever caught. This is the creator of the universe kind of work. It's no wonder every gospel writer refused to leave this story out. It's one of only 2 stories in the Gospels that doesn't get left out from any of the gospel writers. One is the resurrection, And the second is this one right here. It's in all 4 gospel accounts. Why? Well, watch his hands and how they move one more time. He took the bread, he blessed it, he broke it, and then he gave it. Now fast forward to the end of his life, to an upper room, the night before he dies. What's he doing? Same hands, same motion. Jesus took bread. He blesses it. He breaks it, and he gives it to them and said, "This is my body, which is broken for you." Now fast forward again to a little hill outside the city of Jerusalem, where Jesus is the one who is taken. He is the one who is blessed by the Father and broken by the Father and given by the Father. That's why all 4 of them kept this story in each of the Gospels, because this isn't merely a story about the multiplication of bread. It's about the bread of life that satisfies souls, not just stomachs. It's like the gospel in miniature. We were the crowd. We are the crowd, wandering, helpless, with nothing in our hands worth bringing. Nothing. And the Good Shepherd looked at us, and his gut turned over with compassion when he looked at you. When he looked at you, your pain was in his heart. And he became the lamb, broken so that you could be satisfied. Jesus doesn't just give bread, he is the bread. He will satisfy you. If you don't know Jesus that way this morning, let us introduce you to him. It will change your life, both in this life and the next. The one who takes what is little always makes it enough. I'd like to invite the band to join me up here as we pull this to a close. As I look back over this story, I think Jesus leaves every one of us with at least 3 questions this morning, one for each point that we work through. The first is this: what is it that is making you tired in life right now? Really do some self-analysis here. What is making you tired? Everybody's tired. The question is not whether you're exhausted or not. The question is why you are exhausted. Are you worn out chasing things that Jesus never calls on you to chase? Or are you spending yourself on things that will still matter 10,000 years from now? If you are spending some time probably investing in things that don't matter as much, set up a time this week to talk with your spouse or a friend, whatever it might be, and evaluate your rhythms. Embrace some new ones. Check out our website. Find the Connect and then Community menu on our Community Service Opportunities menu on our website, and look for some opportunities that we have there for you to engage in the mission here in our city. Listen, I can't do this for you. You're going to have to go on offense a little bit and do it. We will provide occasional opportunities, but you're going to have to take up the mantle. I'm going to have to take up the mantle. Run hard, rest deeply. The second question: what do you feel when you see wandering people in our city? When your plans get interrupted, when your schedule gets inconvenienced, when your neighbor knocks, when the Spirit nudges on your heart, maybe like he's doing this morning a little bit, what is your first response? I have to confess, mine is not always compassion. I remember a few years ago, during a snowstorm, I was in my office writing a sermon, ironically writing a sermon on mission, kind of like we've heard today. And Miriam knocks on the office door and pokes her head in and says, "Hey, the next door neighbor is snow blowing the sidewalk, our sidewalk." And she encouraged me to go out there and talk to him, to begin a conversation that we hoped would lead to, a friendship that we hoped would lead to gospel conversations. And I said, "I can't. I'm behind on writing my sermon this week. My sermon on mission, right?" I said, I can't do it." And so she kind of just shrugs and, okay, shuts the door, and I just sit there, and the Spirit is just like sitting on my shoulders, heavier than anything, right? And so finally I give in, and I put my coat on, my gloves on, and I walk out there to the sidewalk, and I have a conversation with my neighbor. It's not that hard, right? I just want to encourage you to take the simple steps of looking at the world around you with compassion. See the world through Jesus' eyes. Have compassion. Feel their pain in your heart. This is what obedience looks like. 5 extra minutes, an interrupted schedule. We complicate this all the time, but just see people as people. That cashier you bump into in the store has a story. There's hurt in her past. That neighbor stays on his own side of the fence, but there's hurt in his heart. That mechanic that you take your car to again and again, man, they have a story that would blow your mind if you would just engage with them for a second. They all have hopes and dreams and wounds and places in their heart where only Jesus can meet the need, where he can take your little and make it much. Engage people as people. And so here's the third question, the final question of the morning. What do you do when Jesus asks you to do what you feel you cannot do? Because he will. He'll look at what you have and say, you go feed them across the street. And you'll say, it isn't enough. And that is exactly the place that you are meant to be. That's exactly where every disciple eventually ends up. Not because Jesus enjoys frustrating us. That's not it. It's because he loves teaching us where the sufficiency really lies. It's in him. And he's going to multiply your little into much. He simply asks you to bring what you have, your little faith, your little hospitality, your little time, your little lunch. Bring it, because little is much when Jesus is in it. And listen, some of you have been disqualifying yourselves for years. I have no gifts really to offer. I have no talents, got nothing of substance. I don't have gifts like other people in this church. Can I say this with love and conviction? Stressing over your littleness is just another way of ignoring his greatness. Do not surrender to that. Do not give in to the enemy's whisper. Remember when I nerded out on us earlier about that verb tense? Jesus kept giving, not just gave once. Mark 6 isn't a recipe that you run once. It's something that you live in. It's a loop that you live in, that you come back to again and again and again. And so as we close here, I want to tell you one more story about something I experienced this past weekend because I can't shake it. Yesterday, the men had a prayer gathering. There were a few of us just praying for the needs in our body, people who are struggling, our city who is struggling, praising the Lord for the things that he had done too. Not all bad, some good. And I was sitting there listening to my brother Mike Langley pray. He prays something like this: God, don't let us gather in the huddle tomorrow to learn the play and then jog to the sidelines while somebody else runs the play. Man, that is this room. We're huddling up right now. We are learning the play. This right here, every Sunday, this is the huddle. We gather around the word, we learn the play. In a few minutes, we're going to eat at the table and be replenished. But the huddle is not the game. This right here is not the whole of the Christian life. Jesus looked at 12 tired men who did not have enough and still said, you give them something to eat. He didn't say, step aside, I got this now. Just come on Sundays and I'll take care of Monday to Saturday. Thankfully, he uses us. The huddle breaks and everyone leaves to run the play. And hear me, to run this illustration that Mike did not intend for me to run to its very end. Every one of us has a position to run these plays out. Some of you are linemen. I'm not speaking about your size, okay? Some of you are offensive linemen. You never touch the ball. You never do. Nobody puts your name in the highlight reel. But maybe God has blessed you financially, and you're blocking. Your generosity is making it possible to run the play. Would you provide so that the play can be run? Some of you are tight ends. You don't take the ball like way down the field typically. You just move it down the field right here, locally, in your street, in your office, at the gym, on your kids' team. The 757 is your part of the field. But some of you, man, some of you are wide receivers, and you need to go way down the field, maybe across an ocean, to deliver the good news, to score the touchdown of the gospel. I wonder what part of the team you're on. No one can do everything, but everyone can do something. You're in the huddle this morning, every one of you. The play has been called. You feed them. Let us feed them. Run your route. Do not head to the sidelines when you leave this place. And if you need to hear some stories about people who are running plays, here locally, come back tonight to our Partners Fellowship. We would love to have you. If you have not signed up yet, you can have my plate of barbecue. Genuinely, I just want you there. Come join with us and hear what the Lord is up to here in our little city. Here's the big idea. I left it to the very end this morning. Hopefully it's portable and memorable for you. Jesus will give you impossible assignments so that you can discover his infinite sufficiency. You are not enough, and that's okay, because Jesus is. You know, as we come to this table here this morning, it's a reminder that we're not enough and that Jesus is. Because, listen to this, Jesus hosted another meal at the end of Mark's gospel. Again, same hands, same motion, breaking the bread. He took it, he blessed it, he broke it, and he gave it. But this time he said, this is my body. Jesus doesn't give bread. Again, he is the bread. The crowd on that hillside got hungry again by morning when he fed them back in Mark 6. But whoever feeds on this, his body, will never be hungry again in their soul. If you don't know Jesus this morning, man, we would invite you to come to Jesus' feet. If you don't know even what that means, we got prayer team members who have got lanyards on who will meet you in the back that would love to introduce you to Jesus, the bread of life. I'm happy to speak with you as well. This table wouldn't be for you this morning, though. It's for those who have found their hope in Jesus. Hungry Christians, come. Confess where you've fallen short on this. All of us have something to say, like, Lord, I've been gazing at my own inadequacies and not your infinite greatness. Give yourself a second to confess that. A member of our prayer team is going to come up and pray now. After that, you can come to the table, eat, drink, and celebrate the Lord's provision in your life.